we welcome you to this edition of the Night Shift. Eric Lopez, Bryson Turner. This is definitely the definition of a night shift. No Jeff, he has no voice. No Kyle Nash, he's occupied. No anybody, I mean, no Nick. It's just you and me, Bryson.
Yeah, this is fun. This could be a very nice show. I think just a nice little fireside chat almost. I can almost kind of feel the warmth right now.
We will talk football. What coming up later in the show? I'm gonna make Bryson. You know, he's right now in grad school. He's trying to get high grades. I'm gonna have him grade this UCF football team, position by position. We're gonna grade this team, folks. Ooh, could be some interesting grades here at the midterms. We're gonna have basketball media day took place this week. You're gonna hear some of the interviews me and Nick Porcelli had. We're gonna have an interview with Tyler Hendricks. Taylor's his brother later on the show, as well as Laila Jewett, women's basketball. Also, but we're going to do it differently. We're running the show, people. Make sure you follow us and check out our articles at blackandgoldbanneret.com. If you read blackandgoldbanneret.com, there's a lot of thing called Nightcap, where Mr. Bryson Turner covers Olympic sports, and that's where he just came from as we're recording this late Thursday night. One of the reasons why we're recording this late Thursday night, Bryson, is because women's soccer, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, had their last home match of the year. We're already at senior night, Bryson. It just seemed like yesterday the show started, but a big match, UCF against number 6 Texas Tech in the Big 12. Knights coming off a couple tough losses last weekend at home against Baylor and losing to Texas. They lost their leading goal scorer in Ellie Moreno for the rest of the year, torn ACL, as it was mentioned on the broadcast. And so they played number 6 Texas Tech. They scored to take the lead. Maggie Jenkins with a goal, but Texas Tech comes back, responds to tie it up in the second half. It ends in a 1-1 draw. You were there. Give us your thoughts. What took place?
This was an absolute bounce back of a game. Even though it did not result in a win and instead a draw, I think you would take a draw against the number 6 team in the country. Considering where this team looked like last game, the fact that they were competing well with this team, they actually outshot Texas Tech. UCF outshot Texas Tech 14-12 and on shots on goal 6-3. So, and they also were equal 7 corners apiece. So UCF really took it to Texas Tech in this one. So I think after the results of the last couple of games and the disappointments of those games, to see UCF do this against the number 6 team in the country shows that you really should not count them out just yet.
All right. So this was interesting. You bring this up that you were pleased with the performance because Coach Sahedek, you talked to her after the Baylor match. She was not pleased at all.
Oh, no, she was not.
And, you know, I've known Tiff since she got here 2013. That was probably the most upset. I think I told you that. That was the most upset I've seen her after a post-match. You were there for the Baylor match. What do you think? What changed from Baylor to Texas Tech? Clearly the players got her message.
Yes, it was mentality. I think the mentality was the biggest thing. They just really took it to Texas Tech. You know, Coach Tiff talked about it in their postgame interview. It talked about it with Dayana Martin and Caroline Delisle, who are both seniors, who I also spoke with. But I have to think that senior night could potentially have had something to do with that as well. Because the fact that even though the senior night's pretty early than when we're normally used to seeing it, I think that them playing for these seniors could have easily given them the extra motivation that they needed to really put forth, like leave it all out there on the pitch, as it were, because there were some close calls. Like legitimately, I think UCF could have won this game. The chances just wasn't there, but they really took it to the Texas Tech goalkeeper there, even after the game got tied up, because there were a couple of close calls.
Let's hear now. Your conversation, you had a chance to talk to Coach Sahedek following the Texas Tech match. Let's hear your chat with Coach Sahedek and share and listen to her thoughts on the draw.
All right, Coach, congratulations on the draw. Does this feel like a bounce back to you after last game?
It does feel like a bounce back. I know we would have loved to get the win, but I'm focused on commit to each game, and today was another level of commitment. And, you know, it's senior night, and I think that had a lot to do with everyone's motivation tonight.
Can you elaborate a little more on the mentality? What seemed different about this team from in this game as opposed to the last one?
Oh, there's a huge difference between mentality in this game than last. I mean, we were just on our front foot. We were pressuring more. We were more committed to our 1v1 duels. We were getting into the attack more with more aggression. Like, it was just literally not a lot of tactics, I don't think. I literally think it was just a desire to want to compete today.
Only one other team in this conference has drawn this unbeaten Texas Tech program. What did you see out on that pitch today, just seeing them play together?
I mean, Texas Tech is a very, very good team. So obviously it's a great draw. I know they're undefeated right now, but yeah, I'll just go back to the desire and the way that our team played for each other, and I think that's a really good. I'm glad that this will be a confidence booster, because I think that they know they can go with any team in the country, as long as they put in that work ethic and mentality and togetherness.
How much does it mean to you to be able to do this for senior night?
Oh, this is big. We talk about the seniors, everything that they've contributed to this program after the 4, 5, 6 years, some of them. They've given their heart and soul to this program. The least we could do is fight for them and show them how much we appreciate them. So it does mean a lot tonight.
So you've been a team that has thrived off of the set piece, and you got one off the goal, rebounded from the set piece, really, with that goal from Day. Just what really worked about that play for you?
Like you said, I mean, we've been pretty successful on set pieces and corner kicks, and it's just sometimes you get a little lucky, but we do train them, and we do have game plans for set pieces and try to figure out where our opponent's weakness is, and it worked out today.
Saw a couple of players go down on the pitch for a second there. Just how are they holding up, and just how has it been now through this season, because it's been a long season with multiple matches a week sometimes. So
yeah, our depth is definitely a challenge. We've had some injuries, and it just means that we're playing for those players that can't be out on the field. But yeah, I mean, we just have to keep pushing through it and control what we can.
Who would you say had the most meaningful of the senior night? Who would you say had the most meaningful senior night in terms of seeing them go out here one last time and really have a great game?
I mean, I want to be able to say everybody, because it really was a team effort. Even from the players that didn't even get to contribute on the field, they were on the sideline, cheering on their teammates. So everybody was in it with their heart and soul. I thought Dayana had a fantastic game. She put Texas Tech under so much pressure, and she really got after them. So I loved her mentality. I thought Mia Asenjo stepped up in a different way tonight than I've seen of her all season. So hopefully she's just going up from there. And then obviously, Carol was great, in goal again. And Texas Tech, I know they scored a goal, but it was a banger. I mean, what are you going to do with that? And overall, Carol, took care of the game tonight.
So talk to me, because obviously Texas Tech was able to draw that with the goal. Just take me through that goal, and what do you think you saw from that goal that you would want to see that you could maybe improve on with the team in the future?
I think the goal came from not a great clearance, and that's been kind of a theme for us with some of the goals, because teams have been hitting and scoring really good goals against us. They haven't been soft goals. So I think our clearances and getting, second balls, first balls out of dangerous areas is definitely something that we have to keep doing.
Yeah, you get to have senior night a little sooner from the conference tournament than you probably had before. You still have 2 more matches on the road to go before the Big 12 conference tournament. How does the team feel just as far as that mentality? Yes, the season here is over, but now you got to go across the country and it goes on.
They feel good about their performance tonight, so they're just going to take this, onto our opponents for our next matches.
Yeah, Cincinnati on the road. Of course, that's been something that you guys have done with before, and then go on the road against BYU, who has certainly made the rounds in the nation this year as well. What do you want them to take from this match into matchups against Ghosts? BYU has definitely shown they have a pretty similar talent level.
I think our biggest takeaway today is our mentality, our hard work ethic, everyone doing it together.
All right, awesome. Well, best of luck out there, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, that was Coach Tiffany Roberts of Hayek with Bryson Turner. I could tell Tiff was kind of getting tired of your questions there, Bryce. I don't think she was wanted to get too far ahead and thinking about BYU and Cincinnati there a little bit. We're just going to focus on ourselves, and rightfully so. You look at UCF, they came into this match 59 in the RPI. That's why I thought tonight was a must win. They get a draw. It's a good result against the number 6 ranked team, but they got a lot of work to do. I think the Cincinnati's a must win. You cannot afford to drop that. And then you hope to maybe get another draw with BYU and then make the Big 12 tournament to try to make the NCAA tournament. And I think they're going to have to make a run in the Big 12 tournament if they get in there as well, Bryce. I think that's the outlook for UCF women's soccer. And the question is going to be, do they have enough bodies to make that happen? That remains to be seen.
Yes, you are about that. You are right about that. UCF currently on the Big 12 table. They're currently tied with coming into tonight. They were tied with Oklahoma State with 12. They do pick up a point, and so not looking at the other or through the rest of the action, that means that they could end up getting into a tie with Texas and West Virginia, but they're right there, kind of in mid pack.
Top 10 make the Big 12 tournament, by the way. Top 10.
Yes, top 10 make the Big 12 tournament. So UCF is looking, I would say, pretty all right to make that right now. UCF 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th right now.
I would feel better if they beat Cincinnati. That's why I'm saying. I think you got to beat Cincinnati. If you lose to Cincinnati, that all bets are off, and so we'll see.
We'll see. Cincinnati on the road, though, has always been has been a team that has tripped up this team before. I remember a couple years ago since that was our last match of the season and we lost it, and I was just taken aback, like wow, like that. So Cincinnati is a very scrappy team at home, and so it's not a match to overlook by any means. And then, of course, you have the matchup against BYU, who is number 5 RPI in the country. Texas Tech is 3. So getting at least a draw against that would certainly help your case from a tournament perspective.
It's not bad. I still think if they were to, man, a win would have been huge from a resume standpoint. It would have skyrocketed. I think the RPI back up. I think they still don't have that marquee win. They don't have a bad loss to date. We'll see. A lot of soccer to be played.
Well, nobody in the Big 12 really has a really big marquee RPI win when you think about it. The only one that does is BYU, who's 1-0-1 against people.
Well, and that's why I think the Big 12 tournament is huge, because I think the team that does the most damage in the Big 12 tournament probably will get the benefit and get into the field. It's a lot of soccer to go for UCF women's soccer. Let's turn our attentions to the men's side, which has been the story, I think, this fall in UCF athletics. The men's soccer team ranked number 2 in the country, coming off a 2-0 win over Georgia Southern. Back-to-back shout-outs for this Knights team, Juanmi Munoz and company. 2 goals by Luca Dorado, and the Knights continue to win and play well, Bryson. I got to call that match on ESPN Plus. And you'll hear it. We're going to play our interview with Scott Calabrese here shortly, but this team, the identity of this team quietly here, Bryson, has been the defense. For years, Calabrese and UCF was known for the offense and the high-power offense, but it's been the defense. They're on pace to give up the fewest goals in the Calabrese era, and really, outside of that 7 minutes against FIU, Bryson, where they gave up those 2 quick goals, they have been a staunchy defense. West Virginia, I know, scored a couple. West Virginia is one of the best teams in the country with offense, but this team has clambered down defensively the last couple of weeks.
They really have. Calabrese, one of the things that I think will really stand out for him in that interview is he really praised the team's holding midfielders and the defense. It's not just the back line that really contributes defensively, but the holding midfielders do as well. The way he phrased it is that they are more equipped to deal with different threats and deal with a variety of moments, which I think is a very accurate description of this defense, which, if you remember, was really had its depth tested last year because both Rafael Crivello and Zane Bubb were injured and out for a good portion of that season. Now, not only do we have them back, but you also have the new recruit that he brought in as well, both with midfielders and with the back line. And so to see all the different situations they got him, and you saw what Zane Bubb did against Marshall. I mean, if he had not stepped out of bounds, that we would have drawn that game and it would have been a goal. So just a very, very impressive to see out of this back line.
Let's hear now This was from after the match on Saturday night, UCF winning 2-0, remaining number 2 in the country, number 3 in the RPI. The highest ranked UCF team in any sport in the history of this university. Scott Calabrese is the one in charge, and Bryson and I had a chance to chat with him after the match and the victory for his thoughts on the match, as well as this defense. Is it the best defense that Coach Calabrese has coached? Here's now Coach Calabrese.
Coach, congrats on the win, a hard-fought win there. Just give me your overall thoughts.
Yeah, I thought we played well, especially in the beginning. We came out, we got control of the game, which is what we wanted to do. I thought, we had some chances early on as well, and could have maybe scored 1 or 2 of those early, and put ourselves in an even better position. But we converted one of them, and then had to deal with what we knew we were going to have to deal with, which is counterattacking and set pieces. But I thought we handled those well.
We talked about earlier this week about how they're such a good organized defensive team.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how you feel, how your offense approached them. You had to be patient.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with the overall? I mean, how do you feel against their defense there?
Well, I think when we built up and we were patient, right, and we got them to kind of to step down and drop and drop and drop, and we moved the ball and we switched the ball. When the ball turned over, we were in a position where we could press them, right, and then win the ball back, or they play long and we keep the ball. I think there were moments where when we actually built up and we went too quickly forward, where the ball turned over, but we didn't bring numbers up, and now they were able to counterattack against us. So I think there were moments when we handled it really well, and we created either a good opportunity or a moment where we could repress. And there were other moments where maybe we looked in behind or went forward too quickly, and then now you've got an issue. You got to deal with the counter.
Of course, Luka, scoring 2 goals, up to 34 goals, passing Matias now all alone in 6th place in program history. We've talked about him.
Yeah.
Put into words what he means, and just tonight again, I mean, he's able to finish plays off when you need him.
Yeah, what I'll say is I think Luke had a really good week in training and put a lot of time and effort into his finishing this week, and got in front of goal a lot and looked sharp. And then you see tonight what he's been able to do. But that's the footballer, and I've said it before. He's an incredible person, amazing teammate. He obviously does some really important things for us on the field, but just awesome human being, and we love him.
Luka and Robbie said this is the most connected defensive team that they've ever, since they've been here.
Yeah.
That they feel this is the best defense they've been a part of. Do you agree with that? Is this the best defensive team that you've had here since you've been here?
I do. I think there's this solidness to that group, right? And when we defend, it always starts from the front, and we like to defend with the ball as well. So the more we are able to build up and possess and get numbers forward, now we can repress, and then it's the front group. But then there's this back group that we have, and that includes the holding mids and the back four. And I would tell you, I think that this group is the best we've had. They're able to deal with a lot of things. So they're able to deal with counterattacks. They're able to deal with set pieces. They're able to deal with direct play. And so where I think, maybe we've had a different type of defensive group in the past, this is a group that I think is more equipped to deal with different threats and to be really good in the variety of moments that you're going to see in college soccer.
Coach, the last time we had talked about the test the team would face going on the road against Marshall and Kentucky. Now that we're on the other side of that, how do you feel about this team after seeing them go up against both programs?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a very good team, and I think we're capable of competing. I think we've shown we're capable of competing with, West Virginia, who's, highly thought of, ranked really highly. Marshall, number 1 team in the country. You see that we can compete with anybody, and that we have this ability to get results as well against anybody. So I don't think there's a limit to what this team can do.
what's the biggest thing you think the team can take with them from tonight through the rest of the Sun Belt season? Because you had a very front-loaded conference schedule to start with 2 of the top 5 teams in the country in West Virginia and Marshall. So how do you take what they did tonight through the rest of a Sun Belt schedule that, isn't top 5 in the country as far as ranking purposes anyway?
Yeah, I personally don't ever look at it that way, right? In that, I actually think, okay, it's important to know who you're playing and what they're able to do, but our benchmark is us, right? And so what we'll do is we'll do what we do every week, which is we'll look at what we did well, what we can improve on, and then we'll train and we'll watch video and we'll try to get better. And so that the next time we go out, now we're more effective, we're more efficient, we're better at what we are trying to do. And that process is, and I say it this way because that process is no different to when we play Marshall, when we play Clemson, when we play any of the top teams to the teams that aren't ranked or aren't at, have the same record. The process is exactly the same.
So in that case, what would you say really stuck out tonight that you want to see them do against Coastal?
Well, I'll say this. I felt like there are things in the final third that we did better than we've done in the past in terms of combination play and finding each other. And so now we have to convert the chance at the end, right, and be more efficient in front of goal and around goal. There are probably some moments where we also went forward and it really wasn't there. We weren't. The run happened, right? But the defense read it well. Maybe they reacted where they've dropped, and now we've tried to play that ball, but it's not going to happen. Now we need to see that that's happened. We need to play the next option, and sometimes we need to create the next option to be able to play. But sometimes that option is there, but we're still forcing a pass that we need to see that this isn't the best option now, and that the run was there, but the run created disorganization in our opponent or made the back line drop, and now the space is opened up in other places. And if we're better in those moments, then now we're going to create a better chance.
How much of the fact that you're going to be home again, not have to travel, get some more extra practice time there and work on that? That's not going to help you in this perfect timing here to have the next home match?
Well, is our next match home or is it away? Our next match is away.
Oh, that's right. Away, then
yeah.
Between that's right.
So right. I think we go ODU.
That's right. ODU next. Then the Coastal, right?
Yeah. So ODU is going to be difficult. They're having a very good season. They're always a tough team, and they're not afraid to work. They're not afraid to kind of just graft and compete. And so that's going to be a really, really difficult game, especially going to Norfolk on their home field. Their head coach, great person. I've known him for a long time. This is his last year. He's retiring. So I know they're going to be up for it.
Coach, we've talked with you before about, soccer scheduling. And one thing I've kind of noticed between both soccer teams and, both UCF soccer teams are in different conferences this season is that with the Sun Belt, you guys play one match a week. How much has been this kind of one match a week schedule really helped you guys this season? Because the American was a pretty big conference last season.
Yeah, I think when we get to play one match a week, you get to recover in lots of different ways, right? So you get to recover emotionally and mentally. And I think that's a big thing to have to, when you play Friday and then you play Tuesday and then you play Friday and then you play Wednesday and to get up emotionally to give the right kind of effort to the game is difficult. So I'm really glad we're past that point and that now the guys can go, they can recover. And then they're able to really show up for the next game ready to go and be able to deliver the energy that they need in that game.
All right, awesome. Well, best of luck against ODU, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, that was Scott Calabrese, UCF head coach. By the way, full disclosure, I made the error on the scheduling. So I called the game on ESPN Plus. Okay, I'm defending myself here real quick, Bryson. The whole match, we're promoting the Coastal Carolina match because that's the next broadcast for UCF on ESPN Plus. Completely forgot they have ODU on the road. So that was my error on that. Thankfully, Coach Calabrese, a lot smarter than I am for many, many obvious reasons. And let's get into this here. Now they go to ODU. This is a tricky game here, Bryson. ODU quietly is playing well.
They are top 100 the top 100 RPI, number 93. They've done pretty well. They've gotten a draw against a quad 1 team actually. So and another draw against a quad 2 team. They can be pretty sneaky good when they want to be, especially when they.
Well, they're going to gear up for this. The number 2 ranked team in the country is coming to their place. I'm expecting a tough place to play, and that's something UCF's going to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is too, UCF dominated Georgia Southern. I think the missing piece, and it's weird to say this about a UCF men's soccer team is, but putting the ball in the net, finishing plays. Like there were other opportunities by other players that could have finished off Georgia Southern even earlier, other than Luca Dorado. And I think that's the key now moving forward, Bryson. Do we see the other players up front, like a Giannis Balatrash, who has always had so many opportunities to score, but hasn't put it over the net? Alwador, the transfer from Oregon State, has only 1 goal. That's the thing. If this team, they've been close on some plays in there. If they start putting that ball in the net and now they're scoring 2, 3, 4 goals a match, look out with this team. I think that's the next piece for this team, which is bizarre to say about a Coach Calabrese team. That's something we've never had to worry about before. And I think they're capable of it, but it hasn't worked out yet. But I think perhaps it's still to come.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right about that. Luca, the good news is that even under this situation, you have Luca Dorado, who, by the way, is now alone in 6th place for the most goals in UCF history. Now, with those 2 goals now upping his total to 34. This is one of the better scorers that this program has really ever seen, which is amazing since we were coming off of Cal Jennings, who did Cal Jennings things. So the fact that Luca Dorado is here to kind of anchor this offense is good, but you definitely want to see, someone to kind of step into that Gino Vivi kind of role. And we've kind of seen a little bit of that from Clarence Awudor. We've seen a little bit of that from Emmanuel Bum. And then we've even seen a bit of that from Saku Heiskanen, who was I would argue was one of the biggest ads that Calabrese made this season with this over the off season. If I would actually argue who would probably be the next big chance offensively, I would honestly be looking at Saku. I think Saku is going to be one.
I think they feel they get score even more goals because the chances have been there. They just haven't finished it. It'll be interesting. Robbie Soranellis, by the way, Sunbelt Defensive Player of the Week. 3rd different UCF night to win Defensive Player of the Week this year in the Sunbelt. Juanmi Munoz won it last week, and then earlier this year, it was who was the first one that won it?
Zane Bub.
Thank you. I just drew a blank and Robbie Soranellis is a great story. In fact, UCF Knights posted this on their social media platforms. His with his family heritage, with ties to some of the early UCF teams of the early 80s.
No, yeah, I think it's awesome to see Soranellis really, but he transferred in, if you remember. I believe he was at North Florida before he transferred in. I remember talking to him about coming from the transfer portal, actually, when I was doing that story about Nick Taylor, because both of them played against their former programs that year. But Soranellis is one of those examples, though, of why this defense is so big, because not only is the back line doing its job, but remember how Coach Calabrese mentioned those holding midfielders. Robbie Soranellis is one of those holding midfielders, and he's been doing an excellent job at that. But I think there's another factor at play in all this, since we kind of talked about women's soccer before this, is because this team is one of the healthiest men's soccer teams I think I've seen.
Knock on wood. Let's not jinx it.
Well, I mean, they're playing once a week. They're not playing twice a week.
We don't need to. Let's not harp on it. Let's just let's keep it that way.
All right, yeah. But the point is that we'll probably end up talking about this a good bit throughout the rest of this month of the regular season, where UCF is going to have to face against a team like an RPI 170 Coastal Carolina after ODU. You got South Carolina 132. Georgia State and James Madison could be very interesting. Both of them are in the top 60. But the point is that you're not going to be going up against a Marshall or a West Virginia anymore going forward. And that, I would argue, leaves very little room for error over these next few games until you get to the end.
Well, and it's so man, if they can somehow get a top 8 seed, top 4, that means you don't have to travel until the College Cup. So long ways to go, and they're still trying to win a Sun Belt championship. That's still
which can actually be hosted on campus. They are now UCF men's soccer is now the only sport on campus that could potentially host a conference championship, at least as far as guarantee purposes.
That's very weird to say still, but long ways to go. Obviously, Marshall, the number 1 ranked team in the country to chase, which is kind of funny in itself. So,
but yeah,
UCF ODU. When is that match? That match is going to take place next Saturday night. Saturday night. So if you got a little college football withdrawal, you can do a little UCF ODU on the road. Then they come back to host Coastal Carolina, which was in my mind there. All right, let's go to the third fall sport that potentially can make the NCAA tournament. UCF only twice in the history of the university in the Division I era has had women's soccer, men's soccer, volleyball all make the NCAA tournament in the same year. That was in 2002, 2003. Volleyball on Wednesday night, Bryson, you were there at the venue, knocked off West Virginia in straight sets. They are now 6-0 in the Big 12. They've won 7 in a row. Overall, balance offense, the story. What was the difference in the win over the Mountaineers, which has gotten some Knight fans all of a sudden wondering, why isn't this team ranked top 25, which we'll address momentarily. But what was the big difference in the West Virginia match?
I think that for this one, they were able to take the West Virginia when they started bouncing back, because I look at West Virginia kind of the same way I looked at the previous match in Lubbock against Texas Tech, where this team came out swinging early in the game and just absolutely crushed them in the first set. But then West Virginia kind of tightened up, and they committed less errors, and they kept things close the rest of the way. And so it's something that they definitely want to make sure, I think, that they kind of carry that momentum forward through the rest of the match. But credit to this team, they did a great job of just doing them, keeping at it, and also spreading the ball around. One thing, the way I've seen this offense get balanced up, Abby Hansen, Claudia Dillon are much more offensively involved on a game-to-game basis than I've ever seen them. Emily Wilson, what a job from her. She had this amazing second ball kill to win the second set. That I would argue is the loudest cheer I've ever heard at the venue on a per fan ratio. I think it's the loudest I've ever heard. It was a really well done kill. And then Ava Armour and Lauren Clark have also been really great as well. And Abby Shomers, I mean, what can you say about Abby Shomers? I mean, the fact that we've seamlessly gone from Amber Olsen to Abby Shomers, I think, is one of the biggest reasons why this offense has been the way that it is. And I think these past Big 12 matches have really shown that this team is, I think, is relatively on level, I would argue, from last year's team with the McKenna Melville era. I honestly think that you could not have asked for a better follow-up year to a post McKenna Melville era than this team right now, because I would argue that this team could relatively compete with UCF teams of years past.
Ooh, bold. All right, let's hear.
Again, the past did have McKenna Melville, but I would argue that from a reputational standpoint, as of right now, they are comparable as of right now.
Well, I think they're playing very well right now. They're 6-0 in the Big 12, and you had a chance to talk to Jenny Maurer after the match on Wednesday night. All of these interviews, by the way, you can watch on the YouTube channel at Black and Gold Banner Red. Thank you. Yeah, that's right. We don't have Kyle to do the sound bites. Here's your conversation with Jenny Maurer, where you talked about, among others, Abby Shomers and company, and her thoughts on the night sweep over West Virginia.
Coach, congratulations on another sweep of a Big 12 opponent. Just what are your initial thoughts coming off of this one?
I was really pleased with our offense tonight. I think, and ironically, we had 7 blocks in 3 sets, over 2 a set, which is, above our average. And we still outdug them, but I would say that our offense carried us, especially in sets 2 and 3. It made it, we kind of had all the pressure to first ball kill right away because they started getting a little too confident. It took us 19 and 17 kills, I think, in order to win that those 2 sets. So I think we started making some errors, some uncharacteristic errors, and it just put pressure on our offense to be almost perfect and or feel that way. So got to get back to work a little bit. You know, a win's a win, and you're not going to always win clean as 25-11. Let's be honest. I'm really proud how our team is starting matches, whether we're on the road or at home. We're doing a great job coming out of the gates. But you know, that dip is, you know, just as much on us. We know we're saying the right things. We know the opponent's not going to give up. There are no easy days in the Big 12. It doesn't matter what record, you know, anybody has. So I think we're saying the right things, but being able to execute and keep that level of urgency and intensity is something that we're still trying to figure out.
So what would you say then the team needs to execute better on in order to kind of keep their momentum that they start out with matches through the rest of it?
Well, just being able to recognize that we don't have to play flawless, and you know, errors it's a game of errors, right? It's going to happen. We just can't allow ourselves to string together too many errors that are unforced. Basically, the opponent is going to be trying to get those as it is and force those as it is. And then also making defensive adaptations a lot faster. We didn't do that tonight, and you know, every team's going to be very well scouted. So they were exposing some adjustments that we make out of system, and we weren't adapting to that quick enough. How would you say West Virginia ended up responding to that first set that you guys did? Like, what did you notice about their game on offense? Well, you know, they stayed after it. Again, we knew that they were going to. You know, we were able to pick up some of their off-speed shots, but then they were, you know, hitting us a little bit deep and kind of short deeping us with some of those shots. And then, but they stayed aggressive, and so they were making a lot of errors in that first set where they hit negative as a team in that first set. So we knew that they were going to cut down on those. So Emily Wilson ended up getting the set-winning kills all 3 times for you guys. That second one, though, I mean, I don't know if I've ever heard as loud a cheer in the venue from that ratio of crowd before, like the ratio there. Just what was the environment like for you in there with those? Oh, it's always great. You know, it's one of those, nobody's ready for it, right? Because it was on the second ball. It was off of a dig. And for players to be adaptive like that and turn and just get after it, that was a really good job by Willie in that moment of staying calm and yet staying aggressive. She didn't panic or anything and wail away at it. She took a nice aggressive swing, but she was very composed. Abby also had quite the day offensively, 667 hitting percentage for her right there. Looking at how has Abby really kind of stepped it up in terms of offense this season? Because obviously middle blocker, you know, the defense is right there. Yeah, and what I'm so proud of is they've been working a lot on their connection. Both of our middles, you know, we're used to a very veteran center. So it always takes adjusting, and there's going to be ups and downs with it with a young setter. And what both Claudia and Abby have done a fantastic job of is this season is letting Abby just telling her, you know, stay calm, put the ball up, I'll take care of it. And Abby did a really good job of that tonight of making sure that she was really clear in her communication, both in first ball as well as in transition, you know, and trying to get into gaps, getting into space so that she could put the ball away, and just stayed really assertive and composed. So proud of her for that. How would you say that this team has adjusted to the Big 12 competition so far? Great. I wasn't surprised. You know, we've been playing teams, Power 5 teams, including Big 12, in the preseason. And so, and some of our transfers have come from Power 5 teams as well. So I don't think that, I'm not surprised that we've been able to adapt, because either some of them have already been on teams, you know, there, or we've played against them. And so I'm not surprised, but you know, there's some new competition, and each team has its own nuances. So we're doing a good job of watching film and adapting to what they're throwing at us. What would you say is different about this team from the start of conference play to right now? Oh gosh. Well, I think that we've kept our focus on 1% better every day. And so I think it's hard to be good at everything all of the time, right? And our offense has done a pretty steady job all season of performing, but days like today where your team ends up hitting 432, we don't do that every day. And so we executed at a very high clip, but then also seeing the growth defensively in our blocks, we're really getting terminal blocks now, but we also got a lot of touches, I thought, tonight as well.
So you end up now having one match against Kansas State, and then for the rest of the season after that, you have a lot of teams that look very NCAA tournament worthy. What's the biggest thing you want to see from this team in the Kansas State game as they kind of prepare for that, for the rest of the season, the gauntlet that it is?
Well, like I said earlier, I trust that our team is going to come out of the gates. We know that. We just have to be able to execute at a consistent level, because if we take our foot off the gas pedal, they're gonna answer back pretty quickly. So we have to learn to be more consistent for a lengthier stretch of time.
Last question.
I feel now, of course, tonight was the classic dig pink game, been a tradition for you guys. Just how did it feel to be able to, now you got to be the head coach of this game during this game. Just what immediately get the win for dig pink tonight? Oh, well, we also ran a serving camp for breast cancer awareness. It's just, I think in the video earlier this week, there are so many of us that have been touched by family members, family friends that have been impacted by breast cancer, some whom we've lost and some who are survivors. So obviously to be able to, come away with a victory, but also to have some of those people in the stands and some of them watching that we know back home couldn't be with us, that, it's bigger than volleyball. So I think it definitely gives it a little bit more meaning to be able to play this wonderful game and come away victorious. Awesome. Well, best of luck Saturday, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, that's head coach Jenny Maurer. As the Knights, with the victor over West Virginia, they will host Kansas State Saturday night. Kansas State with a 75 RPI, coming off an upset win over Iowa State. And Bryson, you mentioned it, the gauntlet's about to be real. UCF's 15-2. A lot of people wondering why they're not ranked. Well, here's the quick stats for you, Bryson. Going into Kansas State, after that match, UCF will have played, are you ready for this, Bryson? 3 matches against the top 50 in the RPI. They're 1-2 in those 3 matches. Losses to Wake Forest at home in 5 sets, lost to Purdue in straight sets at Purdue, swept FSU in 3 sets at home. You'll look at it in comparison. UCF currently has played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 13 matches, Bryson, against teams 99 or worse in the RPI. That is why they're not getting the votes that some people believe they could get. And that is why their RPI actually, as we record this late Thursday night, is 35, despite the 15-2 record, Bryson. So to me, the UCF volleyball schedule is going to be defined by after Saturday night against Kansas State, when you've got the 11 matches with teams like BYU at home for 2. You got to play at Kansas and at Iowa State to finish the year. Your last home match is against the defending national champions in Texas. You got to go to Houston for 2 matches. Next weekend, you're going to Baylor for 2, one of them being on nationally television on ESPN2. So we're going to learn a lot about this volleyball team and whether they're an NCAA tournament team or not, Bryson, in the final 11 matches.
Indeed, but with that said, I don't think this team could have had a better way to prepare itself for this gauntlet of a schedule than with the schedule that they've already had. The fact that they were able to build up this reputation with these Big 12 opponents that they've had with West Virginia, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Texas Tech, like really slowly acclimating them to the Big 12 before they're hit with the big guns of the conference, because that's who they're going to get for the rest of the season, is the big guns. And when you look at I think they tease a little bit of what they might be able to do, because you look at Florida State, for instance, their one big non-conference win. You look at what Florida State has done since this season. And I think that can show you what this team is capable of at home. And I remember you saying this last week, Eric, that if this team can go 4-7 during that gauntlet of a stretch, then you think that they could make the tournament. And I feel like that is a pretty solid assessment. And those home matches are a really good way a really good place for you to really steal some wins there.
No doubt. Saturday night, UCF Kansas State will be at the venue. Should be a pretty key. Again, Kansas State's upset Baylor and Iowa State, even though they're 75 in the RPI. New coach there at Kansas State, so we'll see how that one comes out. All right, coming up in a little bit later, we're going to talk football. By the way, as we've been recording this show, the game of the year in the Big 12, the wackiest finish in the Big 12 just took place. And UCF's not even involved in it. In fact, they're off the hook. I'll explain that later. But first, basketball. We had UCF Basketball Media Day on this week, on Wednesday. The men's and the women obviously taking place. All of those interviews, by the way, all the Media Day content on the YouTube channel at Black and Gold Banneret. Our very own Nick Porcelli is working on articles in depth in basketball. You want to keep it Black and Gold Banneret, wall-to-wall coverage. We're going to have in-depth coverage throughout the year for this historic year for both UCF men's and women's basketball. Bryson, you were not there.
I was not. I was in class.
But I'm curious, what is the biggest question you have for the men and the women going into this season?
I think for the men, I think it's honestly the same question that I had last season, which is, can Johnny Dawkins do it again? In that you bring in a whole bunch of brand new faces, and can you get them to gel right away? Because the good news is he does have what looks like hopefully a healthier C.J. Walker and Darius Johnson coming into the mix, but you also, of course, have a bunch of new faces coming in. Tyler Hendricks hasn't seen the floor. You have Omar Payne transferring in, Jalen Sellers, all those new transfers that he's bringing in. He's essentially trying to do what he did last year, where he's trying to bring in a bunch of transfers to then gel them together as a team and maybe surprise some people. But instead of doing that in the American, you're now doing that in the best college football conference in the nation, arguably, in the Big 12. So this isn't like just Houston, Memphis, and the rest anymore. No. Now you have Houston and the rest of the Big 12 that you have to go up against. So I am very interested to see how they will play against the Big 12 competition. But, you could argue that that's a storyline with every single sport. But I think with basketball specifically, there's an extra emphasis on that question, given how much of a basketball power the Big 12 is. On the women's side, I would say can Satia Messer look like really bring some stuff together again in year two? Because again, with Satia Messer coming into UCF, she had to basically take a program that was basically left for scraps, because Coach Abe took a lot of the players that were getting a lot of playing time with her to Georgia. The only one she didn't take was Destiny Thomas, and she went to Georgia over this last offseason. So now Satia Messer in year two, I think I want to start seeing an identity from her. I think is the biggest thing. I'd love to be able to see a real identity with this team. Even though women's basketball, Big 12 is as good as women's basketball as they are in the men, I would argue. They're still one of the top women's basketball conferences, and women's basketball, if I remember right, Eric, I believe the coaches actually predicted UCF to finish last in the conference, right?
That is correct, and trust me, they're all aware of it. Coach Messer was asked about it in Media Day. Some of the players were asked about it, including an interview you're going to hear shortly that me and Nick Porcelli had with Laila Jewett, one of the returners, on that. And in fact, let's just go ahead and play that Laila Jewett interview and talk where she talked about, of course, Laila Jewett, one of the players that has played for both under Coach Abe and Coach Messer. And that's some of the things we talked about, me and Nick Porcelli on Media Day with Laila Jewett, about this upcoming UCF women's basketball team.
Well, how does it feel to be one of the vets here this year?
Man, it's really surreal. Like, just being here all 3 years,
time flies. Like, man, like they tell you it flies, but like for real, that's the truth. So
You've seen a lot. Just take us through your journey here. How you got here, what got you interested to come here.
okay. So I came in with the previous coaching staff my freshman year, Coach Abe. So they actually they recruited me while I was in Virginia. They came to like one of my tournaments in high school. So they got to talking to them a lot. My parents love it here. They actually want to move down here. So that was also a big factor in my decision to come here. So also academics for sure. I'm an information technology major, and I love that they had that here. And a big part of the reason I stayed is because of school in general. So I really love Central Florida. I love it here, and I really wouldn't choose any other school.
What was that transition like for you? Was it a hard transition, easy like how was that transitioning from staffs and obviously different styles and so forth?
Transitioning from a different staff, I admit it was pretty difficult for me at first, but as the season went along last year, I feel like it definitely got a lot better. Like just with the just building a relationship with my coach, just from that standpoint, definitely got a lot better. And we're gonna continue to keep building that relationship still. So,
what do you tell the new faces about UCF that maybe they've asked you for advice, not necessarily on the court, but off the court, as far as what UCF brings?
Get to know people, man. Like, there's a lot of people that you're gonna see just at different sporting events. Like, you never know like who you're talking to. So that's my biggest advice. Just be nice to everybody, be polite, because you never know like when you'll see them again for sure.
Who won? What have you worked on your game this offseason? What part of your game have you worked on the most?
Definitely finishing around the rim and just tightening my ball handling skills for the most part. Keeping my shooting touch. So just a lot of things, to be honest. I just want to be more consistent this year than I was last year. So that was definitely the focus of my off-season work for sure.
Who on out of all the new people who have been really sticking out to you on the court during practice?
During practice, Shoal, our freshman, really good, high energy, high motor, like does exactly what you tell her to do. Like no really complaining. So I think I give it to her.
What's it been like building chemistry with them, not just on the court but off the court?
Man, I can't lie. Like I love my teammates, so it's been really easy, honestly. Like talking to them, like they make me laugh. Like it's great. It's been great. I can't even lie.
When I say the words Big 12, what pops in your mind?
Man, that we gotta prove them wrong. Our preseason rankings pops right into my mind. We're 14. Okay. But it's different, like, when we have to step on the court and play against us. So we're definitely going to shock some people this year, for sure.
What do you want for people that come out to see your team? What do you want your team identity to be when people see you play?
Hard-nosed team, like, gritty. Like, we do all the little things because that's what we have to do to win. We may not be, the most athletic. We may not be the tallest team. But at the end of the day, we're going to do what it takes to win.
Thank you.
All right, that was Laila Jewett talking to me and Nick Porcelli. Man, I hope we get her healthy, Bryson, on the women's side. Because I remember when she was talked about from the previous staff and coach, they were excited about her, and I think the long-term plans were going to be big from a guard. And I think she's got a beautiful shot. And I think she could add to this offense. And Coach Messer, as we saw last year, seems to be much more wide open about letting her players shoot the three-point shot. So I'm looking forward to seeing her. Maya Burns, who Nick and I talked to as well, has worked on her game as well. I think they are going to have to be productive on that end. Coach Messer and the players, the word they kept saying was grit defensively. That's the message there they want to send. We'll see how that goes. They were picked last officially by the Big 12. UCF Meds, so
I still remember, Eric. You
Yeah.
mentioned the beautiful shot. I remember watching her go off on that 34-point performance against Samford last year, and that was the first time I really felt like that was like her introductory moment because she was out with injury before that. It's like, hello UCF, my name's Laila Jewett, and I'm gonna ball, and that was an absolutely amazing moment from that. I would say that given this stage that they're still in right now, year 2 under Satia Messer, I think you just prove the Big 12 long and don't finish last. I think given how talented the Big 12 is, not finishing ahead of expectations, I think is a really good kind of, I would say, goal to set with this team.
Kind of interesting. Coach Messer gave the stat that the Big 12 is the second best conference in women's basketball when it comes to attendance. Of course, she spent a lot of time there in the Big 12 as assistant at Baylor. I thought that was an interesting message. I'm not sure she's going to be very satisfied with the attendance here. They do get Texas to come here. I think that'll be their best attended game. Bryson, Vic Schaefer and company. I just don't know if that will match the numbers that in the past that UCF did against Connecticut when Connecticut and UCF played in the American, especially, you had a good teams in UCF with Coach Abe against Gino. I don't know. We'll see. We got more on women's basketball down the road on this. I want to go over to the men's side. And to me, Bryson Turner, the men's is going to be interesting. A lot of low expectations. CBS Sports picked him to finish last in the Big 12. My expectations are that they're going to do it the same when the official press, rankings come out for the Big 12. Johnny Dawkins addressed it. And I asked Coach Dawkins, everybody's talking about the new rosters. And it was like, full disclosure, I had to look up the roster, like the roster page a couple times. We're on the court, like me and Nick are deciding who do we want to talk to. We're like, wait, there's a lot of new faces, Bryce, but that's college basketball in 2023, which is what Coach Dawkins told me about, something that he's adapted to. A kid to watch that I talked to people off camera and things like that people are bragging about was Sellers. I'm going to make this prediction for you, Bryson. I'm going to predict that Sellers is going to be our leading scorer this season.
Do you think he's going to be kind of like how CJ Kelly was last year?
I think he could be. He could be the CJ Kelly. I've heard he's a great shooter. I think this team is going to need some offense because you don't have the Taylor Hendricks. They like the transfer. I think Sellers is a guy. We didn't get a chance to talk to him because for those that don't know, the way the media day works, all the players are spread out and you have all this media. And so, you just can't get to everybody. But I think Sellers is a name to watch on that. The guy that I am the most fascinated by, Bryce. You want to take a guess who's the guy I'm the most fascinated by on this roster?
I'm going to guess Tyler Hendricks because now he's out of the spotlight of his brother, at least on this team anyway.
That is correct. Ding, ding. Tyler Hendricks, who redshirted, basically had an injury. They decided to redshirt him. Now he is the only Hendricks on this roster. And me and Nick had a chance to talk to Tyler one-on-one about that. What's it like being the only Hendricks at UCF? And, oh, by the way, how's your brother Taylor doing in Utah? And what did you learn from him? Some interesting comments from Tyler Hendricks right now.
Go ahead. All right, Tyler, just tell us how's it feeling here, man? Before you know it, the season's here. How you feeling?
I feel great. We've got a lot of good guys over here. A lot of new guys too. So I'm just really excited to see where the journey takes us.
You obviously sat last year. You had an injury. What was it like watching the team last year? What did you learn that you'll take with you this year?
Just seeing how everybody plays together. Coach Dawkins, he really wants us to be a together team. So just making sure that we're always together, we're working hard together and trying to win the game. That's really what it is. The closest team always makes it fun. So.
You got a nice trip to Italy there. What was that like to travel outside the country?
It was real cool. It was my first time, traveling outside of the U.S. So I was really excited, get to see the world a little bit. So it was a fun experience.
What did you work on your game this offseason to get you set for this season?
Really just my motor, for real. Rebounding the ball, handling the ball, just being a glue guy, just everything really. Mainly just trying to be better, for my teammates, a better teammate, player, all of it.
Describe those that are going to watch you play this year. What kind of player are you?
I work hard, so I go hard to the boards. That's my biggest thing. I like doing. I'm a shooter. I'm gonna be vocal, and I'm just do whatever it takes to win.
What was it like seeing Taylor kind of develop to what he developed to the point where he become a lottery pick? Was that something as a family you all expected? We were caught off guard. What was that like?
Since day one, we knew, we both were going to be special. So, it wasn't a surprise seeing him go that high because we knew, we always put the work in, and we've been wanting it since we were little. So,
does it feel weird not seeing him around?
Yeah, it does. I'm getting used to, not being with him a lot, but it's a learning experience. I get to be by myself, learn how to, be by myself, without me. anybody.
You mentioned the Italy trip earlier, and of course, you were with Taylor at the NBA draft, so you had one heck of an offseason. Just kind of tell us, what was that like for you?
Just seeing how the process is like to be an NBA player. They go through a lot of interviews, a lot of just talking to the people. Like it's always like making yourself look presentable. It's like really important, and just seeing how it all went down was just like really a blessing.
That's got to bring some insight to you. It's got to motivate you too. That you kind of see what it's like from his perspective. You're like, I could get to that level.
Exactly. It was just like just seeing him do it. Like I've always been by his side, so it's like just seeing him do it made it like that much more like for me like just put like a chip on my shoulder.
A lot of new faces this year. Which one of the new guys have really stood out to you in practice so far?
Really all of them. I'm not gonna lie. Like they're all hoopers. Like we got some good guys. Like Coach Dawkins did a great job recruiting. All of our guys are hoopers.
What's the key to having that chemistry? You had good chemistry last year, and that you had the success you did. What's the key to having that chemistry with so many new faces?
Just really just hanging out with each other. So, like when everybody came, we just came together, had a meeting. Everybody got to know each other, and just going out with each other, like doing stuff like bowling, like mini golfing, just little stuff like that gets us closer.
Who's the comedian of the team?
Comedian of the team. We got a lot of comedians. I'll probably say Chi, CJ, and I'll say Twan.
Ooh, okay,
yeah,
so we got a lot. That's good. It's a good combination there. What the defensive identity? It's always been a part of UCF basketball. Just tell us about this, how that's coming along as you get set for the season, and from your role in particular on the defensive side.
Defense, that's the main thing for our team. Coach Dawkins always preached defense before we're champions. So, we just making sure we're vocal on defense, making sure we're like always in the stance. Those are like the main things that Coach Dawkins is telling us to do.
Do you have a favorite basketball player growing up?
Yeah, Russell Westbrook always been my favorite.
Russell Westbrook. What was it about Westbrook you like?
I just like his heart. Like he never puts on a play. Like he's just like even if he's playing bad, like he just always like plays for an impact on the court. So I just like that.
You thought about? I know you got the non-conference portion of the season, but you're going to be playing in the Big 12, the marquee conference. Kansas will be here for the home opener. I mean, is that something that gets you motivated when you're lifting weights and things? Is that what you think about, or is that something you still kind of push it back and focus on the early day of time?
I mean, for me, every game is just a game. You know what I'm saying? Like I work hard for every game. Like I treat no opponent like lesser than what they are. Like everybody is the same to me. So I'm just gonna go in there like ready to go.
What are you hoping to accomplish individually this year as far as your own game is concerned? Obviously, you want to help the team win. That's the ultimate goal. But from your standpoint, being on that court, what are some of the things you're hoping to accomplish?
Just really making sure I, work on make sure I hit my shots, which is what we need for the team. My role is to be a shooter. My role is to attack the boards. So I'm gonna just do whatever it takes to win.
What's your message to Knight fans before the start of the season?
Knight fans, be prepared. This is gonna be a great season. I want to see you guys out there. So yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And that was Tyler Hendricks with me and Nick Porcelli. Bryson, what jumped out at you about what Tyler Hendricks had to say?
Honestly, I think it was more about, going through the process of the NBA. I also think that the little hangout things that he talks about, getting the team to really gel together, because let me tell you something. So for those that follow me on my Twitter at It's Bryson Turner, you'll notice that after I covered the volleyball game, that I posted a little quick picture of myself as I went into the RWC, because the DeVos Sport Business Management program actually has an intramural basketball team that I am on. And one thing I will say is that I will go to bat for those guys. And one of the reasons I will do that is because we've had those moments. We have gone through those exact same things, whether it was during whether it was with my cohort, with the initiation week, the orientation week that we did, or hanging out with each other, working on assignments together, seeing each other in the hallways and just kind of talk about how we're doing, what we're all doing for the program. Like those hangout moments, I promise you guys, those really work. I have lived them. And when you look at what we've done, where we went undefeated in our IM regular season basketball season over at the RWC. So I can attest from personal experience that those kinds of things really work. And to see that they're still doing that with this one, I honestly think that chemistry, I think we could probably see that again from this team.
They had it last year. I'm really intrigued to see what Tyler can do. He's currently a little banged up, but he should be fine for the season.
The guards look really deep, I think. Like
it's gonna be interesting what kind of starting lineups they have and how they mesh, but they're gonna have to defend. They play in the state of Florida the whole season. We'll get into more about basketball. Here's what I will say about expectations for both. I think look, man, the Big 12 is rough. It's rough. And now you have the speculation that Gonzaga might join in a year or two. We'll see. Although I think that's a little overblown. I think there's a lot of hurdles still to be there. I've heard that the athletic directors are not necessarily fans of that. We'll see what happens. I know that's more of a down the road thing. I want to see how this program gets supported by the fans. Because my goodness, we're in a league now, Bryson, where everybody in the Big 12 cares about basketball. And I think, to me, that's going to be a big step here to show, are we really going to take basketball seriously or not, from a support standpoint, from a facility standpoint, from a finance standpoint, you name it. To me, I think UCF's
let's not forget that, Eric, that we're still not at the Big 12 full revenue share just yet. I think that the support thing, I honestly think that still that might not get implemented until maybe a couple of years down the line. So I feel like we're still a little bit of a holdover when it comes to those purposes. But as far as this one, it's really more about dealing with the Big 12 competition. I mean, you're looking at how deep the guards are. I'm very interested to see how Tyler Hendricks kind of factors into all of this, because it's interesting because because they're both cut from the same cloth, and Taylor Hendricks went immediately one and done in the NBA, but Tyler, it feels like Tyler has an interesting opportunity for him to really see him really grow, see him really develop over these couple of seasons. I think he does, by the way, does have the similar potential that Taylor does. I mean, they come from the same household. I think that
I don't think he's as tall or ill.
No, but not in the same way. I mean, but as far as the work ethic.
Sure, absolutely. Well, here's the advantage he has, and you heard him talk about it. He saw Taylor go through the NBA process. He knows what it takes to get to that level now. You know what I mean? Like, he's got that information because he saw his brother go through with it. And that's got to be motivational. Whether he can do it or not, who knows? I'm intrigued to see what he does. I don't want to get into it now because we got a lot of stuff still to get into. I thought last year's team got a bad rap. I thought there was way too much negativity on, they only made the NIT of basketball. This team dealt with a lot of injuries. C.J. Walker only played 4 games. Tyler did not play 1 minute last year. Darius Johnson wasn't healthy all year. I think, and yet, to me, they accomplished a lot considering all that adversity. I know we all got caught up after that dramatic Memphis win, and it's Joe Lunardi put him in as the last 4 in. I considered last season a success. I know a lot of people disagree. I think our expectations for basketball have to be realistic, and I'll be curious, what people have this upcoming season. We're going to have a lot more on basketball in the coming weeks before that home opener November 6th against FIU. We're going to have a ton of coverage of both the men and the women here. Myself, Bryson Turner is going to be part of the basketball coverage. Nick Porcelli is going to be a big part of the basketball coverage. We're excited about that. And, of course, Mr. Kyle O'Nash, who, by the way, the women, they were not happy that Kyle O'Nash was not here. I'd say, look, he's got a job. He's got a regular job.
Yeah, no, yeah. I'm very interested to see how that goes. I think honestly, the Big 12, I would argue, one of the reasons why there was so much lofty expectations put on last year's team after the big win that it was, is because I think that they were in the American. This time around, and maybe I'm being too optimistic, but I really think that being in the Big 12 will put the expectations into the lens, because this is the top men's basketball conference we're talking about here.
We're going to see some great basketball teams too, and that you're going to learn what the benchmark is and what will UCF, how they will respond to that will be interesting, to say the least. All right, that's the story on the basketball side. That'll get going in November. Quick note before we get into football. Spring will get going. Baseball Practices are going on. Fall ball is getting underway in baseball, the Rich Wallace era. I know, Bryson, you're planning to get out there. Softball gets their fall ball started next week. Little buzz, I'm hearing, could be the best softball team on paper ever. That's what I'm hearing. It's pretty big. It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Juicy.
And I want to bring that up because there are 3 programs, 3 teams to remember this spring. Softball, I think, is going to be loaded. Track and field, Renaya Jones, last hurrah, big year for them. And then women's golf, which is ongoing at ranked 15th in the country, Bryson. Emily Merritt, oh, by the way, doing another job. And they just had a big week here in the fall.
That they did. Golf, of course, one of those sports that goes over the whole year. Normally, they just get a lot more attention in the spring because that's when they kind of are ramping up to their conference championships and NCAAs. But they have a fall schedule that they go through as well. And UCF has pulled a trophy out of their hats this time at the Evie Odom Invitational, hosted by Old Dominion at Virginia Beach. Sandwich Susutham in her sophomore year has led the way at a tie for 5th individually at 1 under. There were only a very few handful of players, by the way, that shot under par at this tournament because after round 1, a lot of inclement weather started coming in, wind, rain, really affecting the conditions in the tournament. So to see this team do as well as they have been, they won by 5. 5 great, really good performances out of true freshman Molly Smith and new transfer Brittany Shin, and along with several of the turners like Sandwich I mentioned earlier. This is, I think, a really good start for this women's golf team, and they're going to be back in action very soon because they're going to be going back to the Mercedes-Benz Intercollegiate hosted by the Tennessee Volunteers. So the fall schedule still underway. A couple of more tournaments this fall before they go on the winter break.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think there's a lot going on with the basketball. Look, I don't know how many wins we're going to have. We'll get into that, but there are some positives coming up here in the spring. A lot of big storylines in the spring. Of course, we still got a second half of a football season to go, Bryson. Football on a bye this weekend. I think a lot of people are very happy about that.
We need it.
We're not going to get into the Kansas game. We all know what that was. They're 3-3.
They're going to watch our Night Shift live. Watch our Night Shift live if you still
watch it live. Bryson, Nick, and Kyle were there. They broke it down. They got to bye. They got to go to number 5 ranked Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel and company. We're going to have a lot on that coming up this upcoming week as well. But let's take a moment here, Bryson. Football 3-3. My question to you, sir. Are you still optimistic this team will be a bowl team?
I want to say optimistic, but it's definitely a cautious optimism. I think that this bye week is, I think, a turning point, a flashpoint, if you will, in this season, because I still think that there's a whole bunch of different possibilities. The whole world is out in front of this UCF football team. We could see a best case scenario where we win a good portion of those games and we make a bowl, or we upset somebody, whatever. And then there's the worst case scenario where we lose all those games. I could see all of those things because this has been a very wide range of UCF teams we've seen. Now, granted, some of that might have to do with injuries. Injuries do have a role to play in that, but
let's get into that. Let's get into this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go quickly to a lot of these positions, and we're going to give them a grade. We're at the halfway point, midterms, Bryson. You know all about it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do.
We're going to give grades, and then at the end, to me, will they be able to pass the course? And passing the course means going to a good bowl. We're going to get into all that. Let's start with UCF defensive line. Give me a grade, Bryson.
I'm going to go with a B minus, maybe something around.
Wow, you're a nice teacher, professor. Why B minus?
Look. I think that the thing is that I think that there are other areas on this defense that really could use the bad grades more than the defensive line, in my opinion.
I'm going D. D. This was supposed to be the strength of the defense. All I kept hearing about was this is one of the best defensive line. Nobody's going to be able to push them around. Guess what? They've been pushed around. It's not all their fault. They've given up over 300 yards on the ground in Big 12 games. Hello. Not all their fault. Got to get better. And I know people are going to say, well, Ricky Barber hasn't been healthy. I don't care. Got other guys. Step it up. They got to step it up here in the second half of the year.
I actually think that there's another symptom to that running game thing that we'll get to
the reason I'm not flunking them out.
That's why I'm kinder to the defensive line, because I do think a little bit kinder to the defensive line, because I honestly am thinking of a different position group when I'm thinking of what that rushing game really is.
The only reason I'm not flunking them out, I do like John Walker, and I like the upside in the future. John Walker. You agree?
I would say Josh Seliscar, though. Josh Seliscar, good leadership part there. Malachi Lawrence has shown some good stuff. I'm
on the Walker. All right. Linebackers.
Ooh. That is where I would do like my C- D. I think that's where I would put that, because look, the defensive line is the defensive line, but if the runner gets through the defensive line, the linebackers have got to deliver. And unfortunately, they just have not been able to do that this season. Rushers have just been going all over this team, and it's up to the linebackers when the defensive line is dealing with issues. It's up to them to make that play, and they just have not done that this season.
Yeah, that's all. I'm not even going to add comment to that. It's been bad. I agree with you on the grade. We're probably being kind on the grade. Secondary.
Let's see. I gave the D line a B-. I gave the linebackers a D. I think I'll give a C to the secondary, because they got some turnovers. That's something that I think they got some turnovers, which is something we couldn't really say about them last year, which I think is a little bit of an improvement, but it's still not the main strength of this UCF defense. So that's why I think I'll put it kind of right in the middle between the linebackers and the line for me.
Haven't been tested as much because teams have run all over us. I have a feeling they're going to be tested in Norman, Oklahoma. I'll agree with you. We're agreeing too much, but I understand. Give me your defense overall grade.
Overall grade for the defense, I will go with I think the C. I think a C is a really good a good spot for me, because there is some small bright spots on this defense that I like. But the proof is in the pudding that offenses have just been rushing all over this team and just been having their way with them in terms of that. But they've been on the field a lot too. So I think that I have to account for that a little bit. And so I'm not going to flunk them, but I think this is one of those things where like you only barely pass. C's get degrees, as they say. But barely. C's get degrees.
D. Giving up over 300 yards on the ground against Big 12 opponent. Not good. Who's the playmaker, Bryson? Who's the playmaker on this defense? Who's Shaquem Griffin? Where's Richie Grant? I think those are questions we still don't know. All right.
Offense.
Let's go offense. Oh, boy. Running backs.
All right. Running backs. I'll go an A. I'll go an A- on this one. I think the running backs have done on it. I would argue quite well, because running the ball has really been something that this team I think needs to do more of. RJ Harvey has shown as really well when he's not forced to pass the ball on trick plays. Johnny Richardson's as speedy as ever. I like what I see with these running backs. UCF has always really been an RBU to me, but I won't lie and say that they've run into issues. So I would say an A- is a solid one for me.
I'll go B, but solid. Yeah, solid B. Receivers.
I will go that one. I'll go B. That's a B for me. I think they've certainly made some mistakes dropping the ball. That's why they're not going to get an A. But I think they make up for it because they also manage to bring down a lot of balls, like where you can trust them to bring down the ball. It's sort of like a boom or bust. You're not necessarily sure what you're going to get with them, but I feel like that the highs make up for the lows, and so it kind of cancels out a little bit, you know.
I agree. I'll go with that. Offensive line.
We are agreeing too much. Oh, offensive line. That is definitely an A for me. That's a straight A because because I have not seen a UCF quarterback get so much time in the pocket in a few years. I would say this offensive line has given Timmy McClain all of the time in the world on some of these throws, and I'm really impressed on how they've managed to handle things. And from their perspective, I think that they've held up very well. So I'm going to go with an A, a straight A from them, especially with improvement for me.
I'm going to go B. They don't have that lockdown 5 guys. It seems like I believe we're about to start a third center. We've had 3 centers play. You know who they miss?
Matt Lee.
Yeah. And I know everybody's giving a hard time because of what happened with the Miami Georgia Tech game and that finish and the debacle there. But I was listening to the Dan Le Batard show, and Mike Ryan, who's the big producer there, who I met, he came up here when UCF hosted game day. It's a diehard Hurricane guy, booster fan, you name it. But he knows his football. He made an interesting comment. He said Miami, obviously the big topic was the whole debacle with Georgia Tech game and everything. He made an interesting comment, though, that and I've noticed this when I've watched Miami this year. He says they're an improved team. And one of the reasons why they're improved is Matt Lee. He said Matt Lee, in his opinion, is the best football player on the Miami team. Think about that. Best football player. Says he's made a big impact on that line. I wonder if Matt was still here. I think it might be a similar thing. I think the offense, might be a little more even structured there. I thought that was an interesting comment. I think one of the things that's hurt UCF here, they haven't gotten production from this transfer class this year. Even Gus alluded to that in his last media availability. They haven't gotten those, there hasn't been that Bowser type, right? Impact. Jeff likes to say the portal takes it and give it, right? Like you give it and you take it, that whole cliche.
The portal giveth and the portal taketh away.
I think we're on the negative side right now. And everybody's going to talk about the quarterback, and Lord knows we're going to talk a lot about the quarterback next week. Linebacker. They've lost guys in the portal with Bethune, who's at FSU, Baptiste, who's at Ole Miss. Think of the player that we could have had from USF, but flipped to Arkansas because William, they got, with the coaching changes and all that going on with Travis Williams going to Arkansas. But look at the offensive line. Still some kind of questions there, as Kyle's alluded to it. Nope, lose Matt Lee. I don't know if we've replaced a Matt Lee yet. Maybe we will down the road. I think they're on the negative side on the board, and that's tough. You like to either break even or be on the positive side of the board. And to this point, Bryson, it hasn't materialized from the impact from guys in the portal this particular class. Yeah. But there's the second half of the year.
Well, yeah, but but on the line, I mean, look. I will agree. I can't agree that maybe on a Big 12 standard, but I feel like on a general football standard, this line has improved from last year. Now, again, the Big 12, they're dealing with a lot of the Power 5 opponents, and I get that. And I think Matt Lee being here would make this program, this offensive line, a lot better. But I still think it's an improvement over last year, which is if you saw.
I gave him a B. I gave him a B. I'm not flunking him. I'm giving a high grade. I'm just saying. That's why I'm not giving him an A.
Yeah, I can sort of get that, and I do agree with you with the transfer class. There's not a transfer of the year candidate on this team that I'm really.
No, and that's a great point. Think of all the candidates we've had in the past, not this year, and I think that's impacted some of it this year. That's been a little disappointing. This transfer class right now would not get a high grade.
Yeah, very true. Speaking of which, we do have one more offensive position to grade.
Yeah, quarterback.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to go incomplete.
Really?
Or maybe, I'm going to go I because the starter's been injured. I think it's incomplete. I don't know. Plumlee's been hurt. McClain's shown some good things with the deep ball, but some decisions. I mean, if you force me to give a grade, it's a C, but I feel like it's kind of incomplete because I don't know how to judge this. This has kind of been all over the place. It's a bizarre position, a tough one to grade. I'm going to go C, but you could argue it should be an incomplete because we've had an injuries impacted this. And I don't know. It's a weird one to grade, Bryson.
Yeah, C. maybe a C plus. I'm gonna give it a little bit of a smidge and go a C plus because there obviously is a lot of questions because John Rice Plumlee didn't really keep himself safe and of course got hurt. And then you have Timmy McClain and the decision making with him. He certainly had some plays that have had to scream, "What are you doing?" And then there are plays that are screaming in elation at some of the plays he was able to pull. So there's again, you have the highs and you got the lows with this. And so I think putting it at an average, maybe bump it a teensy with a smidge above average, if only for the good that both are capable of. So I think a C plus would be interesting if you had to give it a grade. Incomplete makes sense. I can see your argument with that, but I think C plus would be a good way, just kind of average, kind of average-ish.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's like when it's happened to me when I was a student. I would turn in a paper and my professor was like, "This is not finished. Can you here, come back to me, work on this. Otherwise you're getting a C plus. Can you work on this some more? Because this is not complete. I want more. I want like X amount of pages, not this amount. Give me another page." You know what I mean? Like it's just
I can see that. So here's something that I think I want to have a little bit of positivity here, a more positivity here. So
football that could be tough.
Well, grade the special teams.
If prior to last week, no, prior to
come on.
Here's the problem, right? I would have given him an A, but think about the Baylor game, the field goal not the last kick, which was a 50-some ridiculous kick, but earlier in the game, Bryce, you remember the play? Bad snap, kick was missed up, that turned out to be pretty important. And then you give up a punt return for a touchdown last week. I'm going to go B.
B?
Because Colton Boomer, obviously Boise State was fantastic. I'm going to go B, but I can't go A, man. I can't go A. The last couple of weeks haven't been great. B.
I think it's, you know what? I'll do this. I think it's like an 89.9, like a B plus, but teetering on an A, if only because, like, you're right. The mistakes that this special teams unit has done, has made, I don't know if it deserves an A, maybe an A minus, maybe, but I would say like an 89.9. You could say, well, and have him say, hey, round it up, So, but I do think though that the special teams is something that, is much more straightforward, where just kind of, iron out the snapping and be more alert on the kick returns, because kick returns are something that can kind of just happen, out of the blue sometimes, and if you have the right returner. So I think that this kick returner can this special teams will be able to bounce back, and I think that this will just be a momentary blip, especially when you have somebody like Colton Boomer too. I think Boomer honestly is like I would argue if there is one star of this, how last year was like the year of JRP. I think that in some ways, I think this year is the year of Colton Boomer.
That better change the second half of the year. Otherwise, it could be a long year. It could be a failure of a course. So we'll see where they're at. I think they're at a. Where are we?
This moment.
Where are? I think this team's a C. It's a C. Right.
C, maybe C minus, if only
through the first I would say through the first 3.5 games, 3 3/4, they were on A course, and then Kansas State, Baylor, the finish of Baylor, and then the whole Kansas game has dropped them to a C. You look at the schedule at Oklahoma. Then you host West Virginia homecoming. Oh, by the way, wait till you hear how you probably know by the time you're listening to this, but holy macro. The good news is UCF's loss to Baylor has been topped. Holy smokes. West Virginia at home at Cincinnati. Okay. They got to play Houston at the end of the year. You got to play at Texas Tech. Got to play at Cincinnati. To me, here's the recipe to get 7 wins. You got to win at Cincinnati, win against Houston, split West Virginia and Oklahoma State. Those are your 3 wins right there. Gets you to 6. If you win both of your home games against Oak State, Washington State, and West Virginia, I should say, that's 7. I think at Oklahoma is a big ask. At Texas Tech might be tough. but I think they could still pass the course. And passing the course is going to a bowl.
Yeah, I agree. And this bye week, I mentioned that bye week is a very good turning point, but I also think it's a good turning point for us fans too, because I feel like a lot of fans came in thinking that we were going to dominate, and then we didn't. And so this bye week is a really good after the last couple of weeks. This is a really good time to just readjust expectations and be like, you know what? I'll take a bowl after.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think we just want to see better games and played. Better performances. The other thing is, who knows? We may have a crazy game like on Thursday night, West Virginia and Houston did. Two of the future UCF opponents played a crazy finish in this game. It was the Dana Holgerson Bowl. Remember, Dana Holgerson used to coach at West Virginia. He's coaching Houston now. West Virginia, this game was on FS1. Big news, Tim Brando called the game with Spencer Tillman. They were actually on site. You'll hear them in a moment. West Virginia had a 4th and 10. It was a good thing we had a lot of interviews to play on this show, because me and Bryson were distracted by two sporting events. One was the LDS, Braves Phillies. My condolences to you, Bryson, as a Braves fan. Your Braves season has come to an end.
I mean,
3-1 loss.
I saw it coming in when getting back from the game. My dad was watching it. He's a Braves fan too.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it about the Phillies in the playoffs?
Well, and you had 2 on in the 9th, nobody out, and you didn't do anything. That was the story. So the Phillies have advanced. But no, I was watching Houston, West Virginia at the same time as well. 4th and 10. West Virginia's around midfield. Houston is up. 35-32. West Virginia completes a deep pass, caught. The guy goes all the way for a touchdown to take a 39-35 lead with 12 seconds to go. They show Hogers, and you're like, wow, what a crushing loss for Houston. I'm thinking, hey, maybe this tops UCF's blown loss. Who knows? Little did I know. West Virginia gets called for an unsportsmanlike, so they got a kickoff from the 20. They squib kick the ball. Houston gets the ball around the 35-40. They complete a pass to about midfield. One last play Houston has. Let's cue up Tim Brando, courtesy of Fox Sports. This game was on FS1. Let's hear how this game finished.
Best completions in a row. This will be his last, and it's for the football game. If he can get it off. To the end zone. Tipped. And he caught it. Touchdown. Holy Toledo. Stephon Johnson does it again.
Wow. A Hail Mary. Houston wins 41-39. What a way to get their first Big 12 win in program history. A crushing loss for Neil Brown in West Virginia.
I mean, when the announcer says "Holy Toledo,"
Spencer Tillman, yeah, he was probably avoiding cursing there. Oh. What a finish! What a win for Holgerson, who badly needed a win. Crushing loss for West Virginia. So in a couple of weeks, Bryson, when UCF hosts West Virginia, we have two teams that have had crushing losses this year. But what a game! What a finish! The last 12 seconds, touchdowns there. Houston wins 41-39. What a concept, having the broadcasters on site in an FS1 broadcast.
That's what you get when you have those. I really hope that we get some people on site at UCF for the future, especially with homecoming. I'm excited for that one.
All right. Well, there's your positive. That's two teams UCF will play later this season. By the way, Houston game for UCF sold out. So all the remaining home games sold out. Bryson, people told me on this program that we needed that pro school in Tampa to play at the end of the year to get a sellout on Thanksgiving weekend.
Well, who needs USF when you have the space game?
That's Oklahoma State. That'll be the space.
That is true. This is why
you and Kyle has been pushing for this Houston space game. It didn't work out.
Seriously,
gotta let it go.
Speaking of which, they revealed the jerseys for that.
Yeah.
Come on. Oh, come on, Eric. They're not that bad. I mean, look.
Bryson, do you know what? Do you remember how baseball performed with the Tar Heel Blue?
They were wearing black though. They were wearing black jerseys, not the blue ones. The Canaveral blue. The Canaveral blue has really grown on me, honestly, these past things. And this, I feel like this uniform, it almost reminded me of like a Miami Vice-y type of thing.
I was gonna say, which one do you like better, the UCF or the FIU version? Wait, they look pretty similar.
Oh, don't. Oh, yeah, no, don't go and do that. Look, let's just put it this way. The idea was UCF's to begin with because the FIU AD is a former associate AD of UCF. So if anything, we want to talk about grades. FIU needs to be reported to the Academic Conduct Office.
I liked last year's better. Whatever. I don't know.
I think I honestly I think the Space U the thing is looking very interesting.
Off to an 0-1 start, by the way. Women's soccer lost in wearing them against Texas. Volleyball hasn't worn them yet, have they?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Wow, they're saving it for a big match. Ooh.
Man, yeah, no, maybe. I mean, look, we only have had one like big space game so far, if I remember this year at UCF, and so let's just see what happens for the rest of them. We'll
Didn't men's soccer wear it for NC State?
That was a long time ago. I don't.
They won though.
Yeah, they did.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah, they did. Look. Space games, I love space games, and I can't wait to see. But I really think that we need that. I think that rivalry, if you want to make Houston a rivalry, make it the space game, please.
You and Kyle Nash.
It makes too much sense. But you got Oklahoma State for that. Houston to wrap it all off, and And it's funny. You know, a lot of road stuff because I think it's only West Virginia and Houston left, right? It's just 2 home games left, right?
Oklahoma State, hello, that's the space game.
Oklahoma State. Yeah, Oklahoma space game, Oklahoma State, and West Virginia, right? West Virginia, Oklahoma State space game.
Get your man.
And then Houston, yeah, Oklahoma State's right. That's right.
Oklahoma State, which will be the weekend of the UCF Athletics Hall of Fame, which is a good segue coming up. Keep it on Black and Gold Banneret on the YouTube channel. In the future, we're going to start having some content leading up to the Hall of Fame in the coming weeks. We'll get you ready for the UCF Oklahoma football game. We'll get you set for the basketball season. And, of course, Bryson will have the nightcap for all of the Olympic sports, men's soccer, women's soccer, volleyball, and much more. Bing. That'll do it for this edition of Night Show. For Bryson Turner, I'm Eric Lopez. Thanks to all the guests. Well, they weren't live guests, but we recorded them. A lot of interviews you can watch on the YouTube channel. I'm Eric Lopez. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Night Show.